Hello and welcome to the movie podcast spoiler-filled discussion of Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4. My name is Daniel and joining alongside me today, having freshly just given Shay to the Grand Inquisitor, is Anthony. Hi
Hello.
Anthony.
Hello. I'm super excited to be here today. And super
You
excited.
sound so excited to be
I
here
am
today.
really excited to be here today, guys.
That's much better. Thank you. I felt like, when a teacher's like, "Good morning, class." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Good morning." And they're like, "I said good morning, class." And they're like, "Good morning." Yeah, it feels like that. How are you doing though?
I'm doing well. The sun is out, and I got to watch Miss Marvel this week. Got to watch quite a bit of stuff. We went to see Lightyear. We went to see Spiderhead. We got friggin' Obi-Wan today. It's been a crazy week, and we're gonna end off the week with some Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's true. So it's been a crazy here. It's been a crazy time here at the movie
Yeah.
podcast. See, I can't even speak anymore, which is great. 2 seconds into this, into this spoiler discussion. But no, there's a lot going on here, and it's a great time to be listening. So if this is the first time you're listening to us, if you're new to the movie podcast, if you're new to the show, thank you for being here. We love that you're here, and we just want to be able to do this more and more. So we're in a really busy time right now, and busy is always good for us because the summer movie months, there's lots of series going on. Today is also the first time that we're getting overlap between a Star Wars show and a Marvel show in the
Hmm.
sense of they're just releasing at the same time now. And that's crazy. This is the promise of Disney Plus finally coming, to be fulfilled. Well, we've gotten a bunch of Marvel shows already, and now the Star Wars shows are really ramping up, and there's a lot to look forward to. So, as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday, and watch out throughout the week for review episodes just like this one and all the latest movies and series. And you know what? We'll probably have a lot of interviews going on too, because we just had Adil and Bilal, the directors of Miss Marvel, join us on the show. So if you want to go check that episode out, please do it. We had a great time with them. Their passion and energy is just ridiculously infectious, and I think you'll feel that in our conversation. And I really hope we get to have them back to talk about Batgirl later this year, because obviously they're everywhere. They just did Bad Boys for Life. They're doing Miss Marvel now, Batgirl. They are phenomenal directors and just such nice people. And it was awesome to have them on the show. They were awesome, weren't they, Anthony?
They were super awesome. I was shocked to get like a response on one of our YouTube pages, YouTube or on our YouTube interview with by him, and it was just fantastic to get comments like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing. It's amazing. So make sure you check out our show notes for all of those links and more. And like I said, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. Also, I want to send a call out to the universe, to all the Space Rangers. We are partnering with our friends at Disney for a giveaway for you to have a chance to win tickets to see Lightyear early on June 15th. So, calling all Space Rangers in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, head over to our Twitter. It's our pinned tweet. Head over to Instagram. You'll see the Lightyear pick. That's where you can go to enter and hopefully get a chance to see it early. So, go do that now. But today is all about Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4. So, this was a shorter episode. This is the shortest episode of the season so far. And I felt like I blinked and this episode it was done. But some good stuff happens in this episode. I think for myself, just kind of initial reactions. This is probably my least favorite episode that we've gotten so far. And it's not to say that it's a bad episode, because it's not. But we've also had some very high highs in the last few weeks, especially with last week, us, having a showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan for the first time in years. So to follow that up today with a little bit more groundwork before we get to the finales or the last two episodes, that's kind of where I'm at with this episode right now. But let's talk about it. Anthony, what are your first reactions, and then kind of take us through what happens this week?
yeah. So like typical Disney Plus series, there's always going to be one or two episodes within a series that's a little bit slower or shorter. An episode that ties up a couple of loose ends and then opens up some more, and that's what this episode really is for Obi-Wan. It's that let's complete the rescue of Leia and then open up some more stuff. So
Right.
that's where this episode kind of lies with me. It's a kind of like a filler. It is slower. We get to see a little bit more Obi-Wan with a lightsaber. We get to see him use the force within him. But again, it's slower paced. It's not slower paced. It is a quicker pace in the terms of the long run, but it is slower in its overall episode feels.
Yeah, and kind of getting to the larger story that's going on, right?
Yeah, and I think for me, the opening sequence of Obi-Wan in the back to tank, as well
Yeah,
as Darth in his back to tank, and it's almost kind of like they had this bond, very similar to um, Kylo and Rey, where they kind of feel each other in a sense. They can
right,
interact with each other. So both of them being in this tank, Obi-Wan being healed because he was burned in the last episode, just says a lot about how deep their connection is. Even though
right,
I feel like there is this lead up to them being to this big fight, right? We know there's going to be something that happens, but I wish there was still a little bit more communication between them, other than the last episode that we have, because we only have two
right.
more, and it just feels like there's
Like,
this.
guys, just talk it out, guys.
I
Talk it
know,
out a little bit
but
for
yeah,
me.
that's that opening sequence where they're both in the back of tanks and they kind of sense each other and they feel each
Yeah.
other, and they both are showcasing their burns on their arms and their bodies, and it just resembled a lot of Kylo as and Rey just having that force connection between the two, that bond that
Yeah,
um,
and I love that. I love that that parallel between them, obviously, because Anakin sees it that Obi-Wan left him to die and to burn and to feel the fire, and
yeah,
now Obi-Wan has felt that fire and that burn,
yeah,
and now has to deal with those wounds. And I think this is all putting him on that path, of course, to the character that we're going to meet in A New Hope in 10 years or 12 years or how many years later this is going to happen, but. Um, it's a really beautiful opening. I really love that mirroring of like, oh, they are obviously cut from the same cloth, but also we are now both injured. We are both scarred, and these are
exactly,
scars that we have inflicted on one another.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I
Where
think
do we go from here?
so. Yeah, we go into the interrogation of Leia, and I want to say Riva
Riva.
or
Yeah,
Reva. I'm not too sure if it's Reva or Riva,
I
but
believe it's Riva.
the
But
interrog
if you're listening to this, correct us in the comments and just
please.
spell her name so we don't know how you're reading it.
But yeah, we have the interrogation of Leia at the Fortress of the Inquisitors, which is it's interesting because you have Leia, who's very defiant, and it showcases a lot of like Leia as an adult in her younger
Yeah, a
form,
lot of Carrie Fisher in that
and then
performance.
you see I'm gonna call her Riva as this person who she's trying to pull information and like use the Force and be this kind of like this Sith person and manipulator and almost to the point of torture. She was going to go to the
Yeah,
extremes to get this information out of her. So you could clearly see that she is on a dark path and clearly is on that dark path. But yeah, that was an interesting character, I would say character development between the two, where they were actually showcasing both their strengths and weaknesses within a small sequence.
right. And I love the trading off of just Leia is very wise by like beyond her years,
Hmm.
right? And she's outsmarting her in some cases, and then Riva's catching on obviously because she's an adult. But Leia is very very sneaky here, and I love that we're on the space because for those of you who've played like Jedi Fallen Order, this space is going to look very familiar to you. Um, but yeah, I love that we're on the space, and the majority of this episode like takes place here, and it's cool
Hmm.
seeing within the spaces. It's surrounded by water. It's kind of mirrors the look of Mustafar and Vader's castle as well too. So it just visually, I love the look of this, and I'm so glad that we're finally getting this base and this the Inquisitors really in live action Star Wars, because we've seen them so much in Rebels and in Clone Wars, but it's cool to actually see them in a live action format, right?
Yeah, I really like the metallic black of this whole
Yeah.
fortress. It just works
They
well
have a great
with
designer. They have
yes,
the dark side has a great
their
designer. The
their
Empire, they need to pay him more.
what are they called? Industrial designers?
Yeah.
Yeah, the metallic black just suits that look and that crowd of people. And it just
Right.
felt right. Um,
It's true. And I love that Riva's, she's trying to find out information about the Path, which is the secret network that the Jedi are using after Order 66, so
yep.
they could kind of travel between different worlds and everything like that. And Tala, who returned in this episode, um, or maybe jumping ahead a little bit here, but Tala returns in this episode. We'll talk a little bit about her soon. But what's kind of going on with Obi-Wan and the crew at this point?
So at this point we're introduced to O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character Roken, who I
Yeah,
guess he is like he refers to Obi-Wan as a general, so he knows who Obi-Wan is and maybe worked with him in the past or somehow was aware of him in the past through
right.
his
Everyone
networks.
thought he was going to be Quinlan.
Right. I heard that. I heard that was like the rumor, but he I guess not this maybe someone else will
He's not
be.
Quinlan.
Not
Nope.
Quinlan, definitely not.
Not Quinlan.
But he just talks about his journey and kind of like him losing his wife to the Empire, and you see a little bit of the resistance starting to form here because the resistance hasn't started yet, and you start to see the formations. You got the path, you got these characters that are kind of like trying to fight the Empire, but they're such a small group, and you see that these people will become pivotal. Pieces in this huge
Yeah.
resistance that leads to a new hope and so on. But yeah, we see him and they're like, let's go to this. Leia's being held on the water moon of Nur, which is the fortress of the Inquisitors. We need to go and get her. Obi-Wan is really the main person, and Tala is the main person who goes on um this I guess this rescue mission.
Right. And I love that Tala is playing both sides. But like, obviously, she's for the resistance,
Hmm.
but she's not afraid to. I guess again, like we learned, and I think the grittiness what I love about in the Star Wars universe when I think about Andor, um, or so yes, Andor, right? Who's
Endor?
okay? Sorry, Cassian.
Oh
Cassian.
yeah, Endor.
His last name is Andor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When I think of Cassian in Rogue One, when he's like, I've been part of this fight since I was like 10 years old or 12 years old. And, you know, you do, and he's a very like morally gray character who's, we see him kill people. And we see the same thing with Tala because when you're in a world where you're trying to overthrow the empire, the government, like you're doing shady things. And I like that we're seeing
Hmm.
these characters be morally ambiguous, where it's like, yeah, I'm helping Obi-Wan, but I'm also doing like dark stuff to help him, and I think that's something that Obi-Wan has to deal with too, and realize that this isn't the worlds of the Jedi anymore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like he is now the one of the few survivors of Order 66, and he is on a mission to bring Leia back, but also like he's just lost everything, right? And I think you see that so much in this episode. You see what he's lost.
Yeah, you know he's like he's lost his deep connection to the force. Like he's trying to like force a little, I don't know what it was, but a little piece of metal, and he's trying to
Yeah,
grab it, but he's lost it, and that because of his his sadness due to Anakin, his the loss of connection because he hasn't been training.
yeah.
He, also the battle he just went through is a lot of like stress on him and his body. So the force has kind of like been missing from him. And you see that a
Right.
lot in this episode as well.
And I love when Tala, she gets onto the base. She like it reminds me very Mission Impossible, where there's like, oh, let me scan
Yeah.
your card. It's like, do you know who I am? Like,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of like talk their way through it. I love it. And they're they infiltrate the base, and obviously Obi-Wan is there too because Obi-Wan's there to try and save Leia, and Tala's kind of causing distractions, like and like doing her thing and trying to guide him. It felt very much almost like a video game level, which I loved. We were like, okay, Obi-Wan, and you have Tala helping you out, and you're gonna see who's down each hallway. Um,
We and
and I
we
love when
we do
go
get
ahead,
to
sorry.
see Obi-Wan swimming again. Some
Yeah,
Naboo
I was gonna
swimming
say we get to see
techniques.
we
The
get to see him
Gungan.
swimming again, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
that was pretty cool.
I loved the scene when we're in the room where Leia is now going to be full on interrogated, and
Tortured?
she sees, tortured, and she kind of and Obi-Wan's kind of walking through the tomb of all these people that, the Inquisitors and Third Sister and Fifth Brother and all these people who've killed,
Yeah.
who are on the space. I love when the stormtroopers are kind of standing around Leia and the lights go out,
Yeah.
and of course I'm like, lights out. I'm like, please, 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 vroom.
Deborah
And
really
you just
likes to showcase a lightsaber in darkness.
yes, because it looks amazing, and like
Yes.
it glowed so beautifully, and he just took out one, lights out.
Mhm.
Goes to the next one, boom, lights out, boom. It was so cool. I love that stuff so much because I'm a sucker for moments of a lightsaber turning on.
Yep.
I think it's so cool when you see that. And it was a little anticlimactic for me when I saw Obi-Wan use it in episode 3 last week
Yep.
because he just kind of turned it on and I didn't have like a big moment for me. And maybe it's not supposed to feel like a big moment yet. Maybe he's just used doing it out of survival at this point.
That's
So
that's
hopefully go
that's
ahead.
what I felt like. It was like the
Yeah,
survival.
it's he's using this as a last resort because he's so used to using the gun now. And then we're getting more moments of that here. The next scene, he's just back to reminds me of Phantom Menace days, man, when he's just like boo, 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 like just
Dude,
deflecting
he's
everyone's.
deflecting like 30 Imperial guards coming at him.
Yeah, it was
Some
amazing.
stormtroopers.
It was so cool. Then you see him finally get to Leia, and they start to escape the space, and one of the deflections of the lasers of the blasters hits one of the windows and
Yep.
starts to fill up the room, and it's just classic Star Wars like action adventure that I just love. It was a great moment, and you really start to see him like get comfortable with the Force again and be like, I'm gonna like hold this. This is hurting me because I haven't done something like this for so long. But when they actually escape out of that tunnel, it's such like a heroic moment. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a sequence that I didn't see anywhere in the trailer for the show, and it
Yeah,
was pretty cool because you do have two soldiers on both sides trying to get Obi-Wan. He's trying to hold glass. It's just and the water's trying to break through, and it's pretty cool. It's good to see his character come to life again because he's been
yeah.
so scarred for the past 10 years, right?
Yeah, and I think that Riva's this is her probably best episode so far of the series as well,
Yeah.
because we really get to see her be more of a an imposing threat instead of somebody who's just playing cat and mouse with Obi-Wan and Leia, right? Which we've kind of seen her do in the first 3 episodes. We get to really see her interact with Leia more and try and outsmart Leia and be angry, and then we get obviously Darth Vader back in this episode, who looks like he's about to kill Riva because he let them get off the base, but he's like no, she's like no, I actually put a tracker on them. So when they were leaving, I guess the carrier, um, the main, I guess the landing strip within the
Yeah, I would call it a landing strip
yeah within the base, I guess on Luma's little droid, like the
on
Luma
Lola.
droid. They Lola, sorry, Luma is the name from last episode. Lola. So it looks like Riva put a tracker on Lola,
Yes.
who now looks like she's an evil droid.
She's now corrupted. What did you
She's now
think of
corrupted.
what did you think of the escape from the fortress? I did find it a little funny that she like Obi-Wan with this trench coat and hat and lay underneath and like no one saw that. It was just little things like that. Just I couldn't buy into them escaping so easily and walking right out.
I only think it worked because people were, it was a little frantic because of what was going on the base already.
Right.
And because he looked like he blended in and Tala was with him, I think that's why people weren't really giving looks. But it wasn't until Riva's like, no, like, I see you. I'm gonna kill you now. And then it turns into full on Rogue One battle when they're just like shooting everybody out and
Yeah.
running. And then we lose Wade. So Wade is another character that we met this episode,
Poor Wade.
um, who, they both two ships land. One of them doesn't make it out, but
Yeah.
we're in a really interesting spot at the end of this episode because Obi-Wan and Leia are back together. seemingly the reasonable thing to do is to now deliver Leia back to Alderaan.
Yes.
But is that going to happen at this point? Are they going to be intercepted? What's the plan from here?
I would suspect because of Lola being corrupted and having a tracker in her or in it. I suspect that they're going to land somewhere, and that's when Riva and Darth or whoever comes in and battles wherever they are, try to get Obi-Wan again.
Now, do you think I'm curious now going forward? Do you think we're going to see a lightsaber battle between Riva and Obi-Wan or Riva and Darth Vader?
I don't think
Because
it's.
something's telling me that Riva and Darth Vader are going to have a big blowout too.
I think there'll be a blowout, but I think Darth will just annihilate
Yeah, because
Riva in
obviously
a
we know
sense.
Darth Vader is Darth Vader. So
Yes, you can see it in this episode when he comes in and he literally force chokes her up and like just manhandles her,
right,
and he's so menacing, and just the way it was framed up and the look and the feel of Darth's power, it just doesn't feel
yeah,
like she's even close to being able to like
to
fight
do
him.
that. I think I have a prediction for next week, and I think next week's episode we're going to get a proper flashback, and
I
I think
hope
it's going to be a
so.
flashback to the Clone War days.
Yeah,
Like I think it's going to be a flashback of Obi-Wan and Anakin together, because I don't think you have these two characters together without having them together. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I think we'll get a little bit more backstory on Reva because she keeps like when she was interrogating Leia, she kept saying, I know what it's like to be alone.
Yeah,
These
and to
people
lose
will
everything and
will
have it
leave you
taken
to
from you.
die. Yeah, like little things
Right.
like that. So I wonder if we'll get a little bit of a backstory of why she feels that way. Because
I
if
wouldn't be surprised if we get a flashback, and all within the same flashback. It's to the same. It's to the day that Order 66 happened, and
100%,
we're going to see footage from what Obi-Wan is doing that day, from what Anakin's doing that day, and then we're going to see a younger Riva, probably one of the Padawans that we saw earlier on in Episode 1, the very first scene of the show.
100%. I totally agree with that. I'm hoping that these last two episodes are a little bit longer.
Yeah, today was a short, man. It was like 25 minutes. It felt
Yes,
like.
but
Yeah.
I just hope to see a flashback. 'Cause why bring Hayden back if you're not going to do a
Yeah,
flashback?
not
Like,
just to stand and be a like an apparition that Obi-Wan sees
yeah,
on the desert, right?
yeah, hundred
We'll
percent.
see. There's lots to look forward to. We have 2 episodes left, and I think we're in a really great spot to see where this lands out. And I think I was tweeting about this last week or 2 days or a few days ago that this show is setting up for me to be one of my favorite Disney Plus shows so far. And I've really enjoyed all of them, so I'm really excited to see where the last 2 episodes go. I also want to remind you all that we have some great episodes out right now on the Movie Podcast feed. Like I said earlier in the episode, if you want to hear our interview with Adil and Bilal, the directors of Miss Marvel, you can go check that out right now. We also have our spoiler-free review of Miss Marvel episodes 1 and 2. So we will return for episode 3, and I guess 2 weeks from now, we'll talk about it like we're doing today in full-on spoilers. You can also check out our review of Hustle, which just came out on Netflix today, and our review is out today. You could go check that out. It's an Adam Sandler movie. And like Anthony said, later this week, we'll have our review for Jurassic World Dominion. So there's lots to look forward to. We have a lot of special guests planned. And like I said, we have our giveaway going on right now for Lightyear. So don't forget to check that out. There's always something cool going on at the Movie Podcast, and we're so glad you're here. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. And as always, you can catch a brand new episode of our show every single Monday. Watch out throughout the week for all of our reviews, our interviews, our giveaways, and all the latest movies and series. And the biggest thing, make sure you follow us at the Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. Join our Discord, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and write into the show at hello at TheMoviePodcast.ca. Check out our show notes for all of those links and more. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.